All right, on today's podcast, we're going to talk about more things AI. We're going to talk about why voice is a massively transitioning opportunity for a lot of companies as far as organizing their business goes. We're going to talk about obsolescence and other technologies and how that's changed the market. We're going to talk about why you need to have a really big cataclysmic event in your life to learn how to really shape who you are and how you're going to push through things, how entrepreneurship has changed, and why the opportunity has never been better for somebody who's got experience in their life to be able to capitalize on where the market is going.
I'm Dennis.
And I'm Greg.
And this is the More Profit, Less Stress podcast,
where we provide the tools for more profit and less stress in your business now so you can turn into a valuable asset later. Welcome, everybody. I'm Greg Forzani with Dennis Takema, and our guest today, Laurent Cohen from GetOblic. So before we kind of get into a cool conversation, Laurent, kind of give us the quick grade 6, because a lot of people, you say AI and they might run for the mountains, right? So give them kind of the grade 6 explanation. What do you guys do and what geographic area do you cover?
Hi, Greg. Dennis, thank you for having me. We're going to have a wonderful time. At GetOblic, we do voice AI, which basically, if again, you want to talk grade 6, is the evolution of voicemail, right? But it's a lot more than that. Voice AI is enhancing voice interaction between customers and businesses in a way that was never expected before, and is leveling the game between small local business and big companies. We at GetOblic obviously do voice AI as a tool, but we see it mostly as building an infrastructure of voice interaction where we can quantify the interaction, the data, and provide them back to the AI, the agents, so that it can improve dramatically. This is a very long discussion. So I'll let you ask me the questions and I'll deep dive into it.
You just said something really interesting. I love something you just said and I want you to expand on it. But like our focus is small business, right? And you can define small business how you want. I mean, small business could be a privately owned business that does 100 million a year. That's still small business. We have clients like that. But you said level the game between small business and corporations. Expand on that. What do you mean? Because that's a super interesting comment.
Voice as a communication channel has been used by us human businesses for hundreds of years. This is how we built the trust between customers and businesses. This is how everything comes from. Now, when you're a large business, when you have 30,000 employees, when you do billions of dollars, phone call doesn't put your business at risk. A small business, and again, Greg, you're totally right. A small business can make millions of dollars, but one phone call, one misinteraction can disturb the whole process. This is how the game is leveled back. You see, a small business, they don't live in quarters. They don't live in annuals. They don't have boards, They live in the moment. You miss one phone call. You miss one interaction. It has two different implications. The first implication is the work itself. Are you missing a customers? Are you lagging something important? And also the mental aspect. You are a business owner. You are focused on your work, focused on your customers, on your task. What do you do when you miss a phone call, or when the phone call comes on a Friday at 5 p.m. when you're about to go back to your family? You are upset. You are tired. Have I answered correctly? Have I done something wrong? All those things, when you apply them 24/7, all year long, there's so many opportunities on the phone that can be taken over by AI when it's done correctly.
It's interesting because my brain immediately goes to a missed phone call. What's it cost you? And then the other thing is, if someone's busy, so an average small business, let's pretend their customer has to have disposable income. So their customer likely works during the day, pretty normal, which means the customer is looking to find out about your service or your product at night or on the weekend. That's when they have the time, right? That's why it always drives me crazy. Like car dealerships close on Sunday and nights. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's when the people that can afford to buy a car can go get the car. So same thing with your phone calls. That's like, if I want to service me anyway, I'm slam busy during the day. I'm phoning at night. So if they don't answer the phone with my personality type, I'm just going to phone the next one until somebody answers the phone and I can get it booked and then it's off my plate. So that's a big conversation. That's very important to a small business.
Well, but that's the customer's perspective, right? But now you got to think about the business owner's perspective. As a business owner, we've had clients who've had to like run away halfway through renovation to go take a phone call, or they're leaving a house to go do an estimate, or they're doing whatever. So what does it feel like to the customer when the owner is suddenly distracted while they're working on a project? They feel like they're paying for all of this unwasted time. But if I'm the owner of that company and I don't have the office staff or the overhead to handle it, I got no choice but to answer that phone. And if, like what Greg said, if it goes to voicemail or it goes somewhere else, I might lose that customer. So it's both sides of that coin gets heavily impacted by the ability to talk to somebody.
Exactly, Greg, Dennis. And there's two things here. First of all, the obvious. You're a roofer. You work on the roof. You don't answer the phone on the roof. It's dangerous. And also, there's a much larger thing, which is the psychology of the missed call. As an entrepreneur or solopreneur, revenue is immediate, it's tangible. Each booking impacts the cash flow. Each cancellation hurts, for that matter. So what happens? Did I miss a client? Is it a repeat customer? Would they call a competitor? All those things have hard implication on a small business. Large business don't care about that. They have processes. They have people working for them. They're handling. Now, as a business owner, the problem itself that you just mentioned is a problem. But then again, there's the psychological factor. It lingers. It affects the mood. It affects the focus. It affects the performance.
What was in the background there? Was it an air raid alarm?
I'm in Tel Aviv, and there are attacks. Yeah, I'm safe. Thank you.
But seriously though, you and your family all good there? Everybody's
thank you. Yeah, we're safe.
Scary.
Yeah. So Dennis, I told you the psychology of the missed call. The new clients you're missing. The repeat customer. Did I lose $3,000, with a phone call? It will affect your focus. It will affect your performance, which doesn't happen, by the way, on big companies. They don't have that kind of stress. So just that point, having a voice AI that can take over all that aspects with guardrails, with fallbacks, with the trust point that we will talk about later on, if you can answer that, you have something that, yes, is leveling the game.
No, that totally makes sense.
And this, again, kind of grade 6 language, because I think people might be listening to this going, okay, well, how's that work? Because it's not going to be as good as a human. They don't know what to do. How do they schedule it? How do they answer any questions? My mind right away when you said that's like, okay, well, how do they schedule it? Like, what's that look like, right? They just go, thanks for calling, and I don't know, we'll call you back. What's that look like to ease any kind of anxiety or bring some clarity?
Many things to say here. First of all, the AI itself, what it's capable of. You would be amazed of what the AIs, if set up properly, can do. Before diving into the technicalities, grade 6 technicalities of what voice AI and voice agent can do, let me tell you how far they can go. You can today clone any one voice and use that cloned voice within the voice AI.
Wow.
Second, voice AI can react to the user's emotion, which dramatically changes from what we had before, whether it was obviously voicemail and even chatbots. When you have a voice AI that reacts to emotion with elegance, with patience, 24/7, this voice AI will adapt with what the user is saying. Let's say a user is upset. It's calling. I cannot make it to the appointment. You told me it was that time. You told me it was that price. What do I do? Voice AIs can do all that. Okay. As an agent. Now, that's
okay, wait a minute. So customer calls and they're just like ranting and raving and pissed off, and you can see the voice escalating or hear the voice escalating. You're telling me the AI can gauge that and measure it and sort of adapt accordingly?
Perfectly. Anything related to emotion is handled perfectly. Now, what's going to be interesting is if you have that kind of intelligence level with the voice AI, if you don't have the correct data on the business, it's useless.
Right.
Voice AI's voice can be as elegant as it can be as sensitive, because it is, as you can. If you don't have the correct data, what it will say will not match what the business is supposed to say as a trust factor. And then you have a problem. This is why at GetOblic, we do not see ourselves as a voice AI company. We see ourselves as a data company. How good are our data? What's the volume of the data? And we'll dive into it because that's very interesting. You have two sets of data. The data that are provided by the business, work hours, subscription, prices, services, you name it, everything. You can have a full list of data. Now, those data are appropriate to one business. But what we do at GetOblic is that we have 1.8 million agents listed on 1.8 million businesses that are working simultaneously. All those agents are answering calls daily. We have hundreds of minutes per day of interactions. Those interactions were treated as data, are being sent back to the agent and are enriching the quality of the response. So what I'm saying is that if you create one agent for one business, you focus on that business. If you have 100,000 roofers that are interacting, you have as many potential interactions that are use case. Now, if you analyze those use case, you treat them and you enhance the overall agents, now you get to a level of results and quality that is really outstanding. So we are basically crowdsourcing the agents training, which differentiate ourselves from the competition.
So someone listening to this goes, okay, but wait, my business is different. I have these unique like FAQs, right? So I'm assuming that that client of yours or whatever, that business can load up the FAQs and the answers and keep adding to that. And then obviously the AI will learn as it goes as well. Is that the idea?
It's exactly the idea. And actually we give a score. So it's a bit technical here, but as far as how the data are treated, we give scores to the data. So obviously the business data, to make it simple, are scored higher than the crowdsources data. Nevertheless, the crowdsourced data are an amazing source of data. This is you have to think of it a different way. Do not think that because those use cases come from a competitor, they cannot be used to my business. That's the opposite. The use case that happened, an issue, let's put an example. A competitor had an issue on voice. It has been treated a certain way with the voice data. Now you acquire that data and you feed them to your business. Now you have a more structured data that will in turn provide much more quality in your responses. So, and actually, you know what? This is what big companies have been doing for years. This is what Google does. This is what Meta does. You crowdsource all the information and you send it back to your users. So we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're applying to voice AI.
Well, there's two things I'm pulling from this. Number one, a couple of things. There was a comment around manufacturing. I listened to a guy talking about robotics and manufacturing and how the idea is they're going to get all their employees to wear suits. And then the AI is going to track all of their movements to help train the AI. But at the same time, if they've got one machine that learns one thing, all the rest of the machines instantaneously learn the exact same thing. So it's quantitative learning on the robotics and AI field. And so it sounds like, number one, you're doing the same thing with voice across your clients. It's Buddy over at Jimmy's Plumbing had this reaction. All the AIs are learning that reaction and how to compensate for that behavior, while at the same time incorporating that business's data to make sure it's getting the appropriate answers. So it sounds like you're doing quantum learning along all of your clients and not just isolated learning along one client, which would dramatically speed up the AI's ability to participate properly in the conversation. Would that be true?
That's exactly it, Dennis. And that we didn't know when we created the platform that we will get to that level. Basically, we move from a directory to a graph level infrastructure, and this changed everything. And by the way, this really appeared at the moment that we worked into our search engine, because again, when you have a voice first directory like we have, we're slowly but surely moving to a voice only directory. As today, you can call the phone number on that directory and access the same level of information that using the web interface. You call the agent, you call the concierge, you say, hey, find me a barbershop near me. Okay, where do you live? I'm in San Francisco. Here's 3 barbershop. Which kind of service are you looking for? What hours are you available? Okay, this one is available for you. Do you want me to transfer you to the agent?
Jeez.
And then we transfer to the other agent. No, you have a business, you want to claim a page on our listing. Hey, can I claim my page? Of course. What's your business name? We found your business. Now give us your information. So we are moving to a voice-only interface. And that's really something big, because anybody where I explain this say, well, Gemini does the same thing, right? ChatGPT does the same. I open my app and I talk to the LLMs. Well, unfortunately, as smart and as big are those agents, they are not accurate on local and small businesses. They don't provide that kind of information. There's a real gap that we discovered, and where we're trying to create and build our business.
Well, that leads me to the other thing. When people are worried about all of this data collection, they don't realize things like the store Target has been doing that for years. Like there's people finding out their kids are pregnant because Target targeted their buying habits and sent out the mailings for diapers and bottles and baby stuff months before this baby was due because they figured out your shopping type and what you were buying at Target meant, I got to send this stuff out to you next in marketing. And the challenge with the big LLMs is that they're the aggregate of the average data. So it's only going to pull from me whatever it can source or find. And in the process right now of going through our own stuff and figuring out how to make it AI searchable, it's a completely different technique than SEO searchable. And it sounds to me like you're kind of taking the best of both worlds. You're taking targeting from like companies like Target and Facebook and all of those companies that do it already, but you're isolating it down into a very specific search file. So if someone's on a category like yours, they're getting refined targeting, not just generalized whatever's out in the marketplace. And so when they're involved in that, the AIs now go, wait a minute, Smith's Barbershop is offered this, they're in your area. I want this particular type of haircut. Yeah, you should go see Jimmy. He does this. He specializes in that. It sounds like it's really getting really refined into helping people solve individual problems, not just generalized information they hope that fits.
Especially since voice as itself had been for years a forsaken channel, especially since the digital era.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Remember, we addressed that before, but phone is a crazy invention. It's a service that you pay for. They give you 10 digits. And at any moment in time, anybody that you don't know can decide to disturb you, spam, whatever it is. Nevertheless, voice has still been the most important channel, like we mentioned earlier, between users and small businesses. So as much as you hate the phone, you need it, right?
Yeah.
Why do I say that now? Is that all those voice interaction haven't been treated by the big seven. Google, from the moment you open your computer, you reach your email, you go online, you purchase on Amazon, whatever you do, they know everything about you. But the moment they handle the business phone number, something is broken. And the level of interaction, what we call this voice infrastructure layer of interaction, is a whole new realm that we at GetOblic are trying, to organize, to aggregate it as data and provide it again as an infrastructure. So this is very exciting. This is a big project for us, but I think we're onto something interesting.
Oh, it's fascinating. Like I always tell people, I don't have a cell phone. I've got a camera that takes text messages. Don't call me. I don't want to be interrupted during the day. I even went so far as to disable my voicemail because I never freaking listen to them. Like I'd rather have something that handles that for me and gives me a synopsis of what's going on than ever having to pick up my phone again. This leads me into one other thing that you were discussing, and I made a note on my paper here beside me to make sure I bring it up because there's going to be people asking about this. As much as you are aggregating data from all these sources to train the voice AI, how do I ensure that my stuff, if it's proprietary, stays proprietary? Or how do I ensure that I'm not going to somehow have some sort of security breach or someone's not going to take my information and use it against me somehow? Because, phishing has always been around, spamming has always been around, identity theft has been around, and now the AI can clone my voice. I'm even more worried about stuff that's not me being said by people that aren't me, that look exactly like me, that I'm now held accountable to. So how is Oblic making sure they handle all of that to make sure that none of that stuff kind of gets used against me?
You've heard me talk about trust earlier and the aspect of trust between users and small businesses. Well, it applies to us too. We are not only focused on trust, this is our obsession. We cannot build trust and convey the trust between users and local business if ourselves we don't guarantee the safety of every single information that we gather. So there's a whole, and if you want to dive into the real technicalities of it, it will take probably hours. But for instance, we could technically charge people over the phone for our subscription. We do not. We don't trust that level of security, the voice plus purchasing over the phone. So all those interactions that are sensitive are stored in not only 256 protection HTTPS and so on, but they are stored in different data sets that is secured and protected on Amazon W3 at W3.
So everything's heavily encrypted. It's stored in offsite locations. It makes it a lot harder for people that have negative intentions to do negative things to my data. Is basically what
everything is done in best practice.
Nice.
I love it. I think your average small business owner, like you said, the roofer, right, or a mechanic or whoever it is, in their mind, they're probably questioning the trust thing, right? They're thinking, well, if I do this AI voice helper, assistant, whatever, like, can I trust they're going to say the right stuff? They're going to have my business's best interest at heart. Can I trust they're going to treat the customer the way I would want to treat the customer? And that's maybe the biggest thing, the trust around, well, I treat my customers a certain way. Are they going to do that? I commend you, and I love the fact that, you're putting trust first. That's like the number one paradigm or core value, and you're working down from that. I think that would lower a lot of resistance or anxiety for any business owner thinking about doing something like this. It's good.
This is not only the obsession and approach we have, but we are proving it very simply. We, as I told you, deployed 1.8 million voice AI that are free. At any moment in time, any business that is listed or that is creating its listing on our directory will have his own voice AI immediately available. They can try it for free. They can edit the information. They can enhance the information. They can improve the training. Once they are 100% satisfied with the voice AI assistant that is free, they can subscribe to our solution. They will receive a voice virtual line. They will receive a widget they can put on their website and use it beyond the directory. So the trust factor here is do not pay for our solution and try it. Say, try our solution, then pay for it.
It kind of, for me, it raises a flag only because I've been beat into my head that if it's free, you're the product. And if you pay for it, it's a product. So like when you're offering the free service of it, how do you separate that mentality from, hey, yes, you're using it for free, but my mentality is if I'm using your stuff for free, obviously I'm the product and you're getting something from it. So how do you weigh that between subscription and giving stuff away and making sure that you're having that trust thing go across the board?
Remember what you said earlier, Dennis. The solution in itself, at the end of the day, is a solution to free people from telephone exhaustion. Mm-hmm. That is not what the solution on directory does. Only once you subscribe, you have your virtual line. You can transfer the line. You can use it beyond and where it should be used. So as far as what the product is, as now, the product is still the business and not your data.
It sounds like you're taking the approach of, yes, the coffee is sampled, here's on the table. You can try a sample of our espresso, of our biscuit, of our donut. But if you actually want to know if you actually want the full coffee and you want the full experience, then you actually have to pay for it. But we're still going to give you tasters to know if it's actually fits for you before you decide to go and buy the full cup.
This is exactly it, except that the taster is a full cup. Okay. With a full taste and with sugar and milk. It's ready.
Right.
But basically, once you upgrade, the only difference is that you will receive the virtual phone and the widget to install on your website. But the product itself is already working without a limitation.
I want to get clarity for anybody who might be listening to this. So I get access to the phone system for free to try it out, to test it out. But the convenience factor of having my own dedicated virtual assistant plus my own dedicated widget, that's really what I'm paying for when I sign up for a service like this. So I can use it, but it's not as convenient. But once I subscribe, the convenience level of it goes way up because I've got cleaner, faster access.
The voice AI, the free, is on the listed page on GetOblic.com. So if you share that page, that URL with anyone, you will access your voice assistant. Now, let's say you're on the roof, you are on the construction site. You need to be able to transfer to a phone number. That will be done only with a subscription. If someone wants to reach out to you with voice on your website, that's part of the subscription.
So I'm on the roof. Somebody calls and go, hey, wait a minute. Just give me a second to send you a link to my voice AI thing. And if you can click that link, then you can walk you through all the scenarios and we'll get you going. You're just saying, no, skip all the crap and just hit the button and call my AI. Makes it easier.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me than how you're breaking that out. So thanks for clarifying there.
That's cool. Okay, so Laurent, you're in the AI world. Some people are just looking at it. Some people put their toe in. You're like swimming knee deep in it. You're in there. We're at that stage in the world where some people are diving in full on. Some people are afraid. So the big question everybody's asking is loss of jobs. Like, what's it doing to the economy, small business, all that stuff? Like, is it going to wipe out small business? Is it like just your perspective? And then the second question is, and maybe you should answer the second question first because it's an easier one, is those who are intimidated by AI beyond just like, hey, what's a good way to cook steak? People don't want to use it beyond that. Yeah, right. So how do you What advice do you give to people who are maybe intimidated or not, or just only using it as a search engine? And then the second question is the whole job market, losing jobs, small business. Like what's your experience, opinion, perspective on all this?
There's a lot of AI bashing these days. As
Yeah.
every time there's new technology, people are starting to be worried. You can be worried. And again, with any technology, you will have positive aspects, negative aspects. But nevertheless, I would tell anyone listening here that if you do not approach AI yet, take a couple of weeks, 1 month, 3 months of vacation, whatever you can, dive into it. Open an LLM, search. You will see that as a worker, you will enhance yourself. But as myself, as a human being, you will probably get to be a better person because AI will challenge you. It will challenge your energy. Think about it. Every subject you are working on with AI, the AI never gets tired. For instance, myself.
What do you mean you're going to bed?
Well, actually, I have a funny story because I've been working so hard with AI and LLMs lately that I reach a point where the agent now tells me to go to bed. True story. The agent tells me, close your laptop, see you tomorrow. Is it about the token I'm consuming? Probably. I don't know.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that the agent tells me to go to bed. Nevertheless, if I'm deep diving into a very hard task, I don't do that at 5 p.m. because it can bring me way too late at night. So if you decide to go into something very specific and tough and it's going to be deep, start in the morning fresh. Okay, now circling back to diving into AI, search yourself with AI. If you do not know what you want to do with your life as far as business, ask questions, pull the thread. You will find so much idea, deep dive. And the second thing that I tell everyone with AI, and this is also starting answer for the second question, is that AI will not replace us simply because AI needs human judgments. If you do not apply human judgment on what the AI provides you, you will hit a wall. That's certain. I've experienced it. I can tell you. If you work with AI, you will be and you will need to make sure that everything it says is understood. Myself, for instance, when I work with AI, I repeat every other message to work in best practice. Always mention this. It seems to be repetitive, but it works. You need to remind it as you do to an employee. I ask it to put every single information we discovered together into its knowledge base. I ask the AI to write operational books that it provides me back in PDF that I keep myself. Because again, when you work with AI long enough, you know that if you ask one question, you will probably get a great answer. If you have 10 questions, the level of quality will start being reduced. If you have 1,000 questions, it get all messed up. So you need to ensure consistency. And the way to ensure consistency today is to apply judgment and rigor. And those are human qualities still.
Right.
Second thing also about the fact that we'll be or not replaced by AI, which by the way, Greg, I do not think we will be replaced by AI. As a business owner and as today, we still sell to humans, right? We don't sell to machine.
Yeah.
So if you built a company around AI, do not forget that front and center are still your customers and clients. And you need to reach out to them. You need to talk to them because those are not necessarily mean you're going to pivot your company, but this is how you're going to adjust your product and your solution for them. Those qualities, those interaction, those human interaction are still the core of any businesses, and AI will not replace us. Now, if you're a coder, yes, obviously, you're at chance, unless you're an amazing coder, that you're going to lose your work. But as far as local and small business, absolutely no risk for me. And in a much larger scale, it's going to create growth, it's going to create wealth, and it's definitely creating tons of opportunities. So no, AI is not replacing us.
Sorry, before you continue, I love what you said a minute ago about the human interaction, because I've been playing around with different marketing strategies and stuff and have spent more time trying to speak to people recently. And I'm absolutely noticing everybody's saying the same thing. They're craving that human interaction, for lack of better words. And it's probably two things. One, it's probably the AI influx. People are losing human interaction. But the other thing is 2020, cut out a lot of human interaction, especially in North America, we'll say. So people are craving that human interaction back. It's so I think it's a really good point you said there, is that people should remember that. And judgment, yeah, it's a great way to say it.
Life is all about balance.
Mm-hmm.
We will recover. We've recovered from COVID. We will recover from the AI interaction. Myself, you see, as a business owner, the habit I have is every single morning, two things. I review my metrics and I review my customers. Every single interaction is reviewed. Every single email. If I need to call a customer, we have now thousands of customers. Nevertheless, if I have to talk with a person, I don't ask my voice AI to call it. I call it myself. I send the email myself. I respond myself.
Right.
First of all, it keeps me grounded, but also those are the core of the business. They are the people I need to interact to. So it's awkward, right? I sell a solution that free people from the phone, and I decide myself to engage with my customers. Exactly. But you see, this is why I'm telling you, I'm not asking the small business and local business to solely put the phone channel on voice AI. I'm telling them, I'm going to free time for you. I'm going to let you use that time to grow your business even more, to have more quality time with your family. This is not about replacement. This is about enhancement.
Let me put that into a real life example. So we have a client that's a mechanic, and he has 4 bays. There's 2 mechanics, which means the bays are not optimized yet. And then he's got a 3rd employee who is up front, answers the phone, does estimates, that kind of stuff, right? So we're going through all the numbers, and this is like maybe 6 months ago. We're going through all the numbers, realizing like that person up front, like he can't afford a full-time person doing that job up front, because it's 2 mechanics is not enough. Like it's too much expense there, right? So he actually found a company like yours, and I don't know the name off the top of my head, but I'll laugh if it's your company, because that'd be quite a coincidence. But he signed up and he's using a service like yours, and he's eliminated that staff member up front. But it's ended up that he's received more calls because they call after hours and on weekends. He's basically speeding up the process. A, he's getting more leads. B, he's speeding up the process of lead to calendar to estimate. And he's not having to pay for that other than the monthly service, which has now led to more revenue. And he's hired a 3rd mechanic. Like, I guess I'm validating what you're talking about in a minute ago. Like this is for small business. This is huge because they can afford a position, because that position is now an AI assistant. And then that'll generate more revenue because they're communicating, increasing leads, all that stuff. And then they can put money into the service provider, more products, whatever it is they do, right? So I'm just sharing that I know a live example of what you just said, and it works.
Let me sum it up in one sentence. Your clients moved from survival mode to growth mode.
Yeah.
Every single business, every local business, whether it's successful or not, is in survival mode. You open your store on Monday morning. What's going to happen? You don't know. What's going to happen next week? Remember what I said earlier? No quarterly, no board, no annual for small businesses. You live by the day. You try to project yourself, but in reality, it doesn't happen. So if you want
the only thing I would add to that is you're talking to 2 guys who might disagree with that just a little bit. And the reason is we get our clients to act like a corporation and go to growth mode. And your service is a tool. They would need to do that for sure. But small business should do what corporations do to be successful, profitable, and not stressed out and living day to day and all that crap. So I agree with you. 95% of small businesses are like that. But it is obtainable to not be like that and to actually be successful, low stress like that. That's right in front of the small business if they want it. And I would say your service for sure is a piece that would help that. Absolutely.
I'm laughing over here because I feel like we're being tongue in cheek and a little bit on both sides of the coin. On the one side, we're saying we're not going to eliminate any jobs. On the other side, Greg goes, no, we eliminated a job by bringing on.
No, but they added another one. They added a mechanic.
A different type, but that person still lost a job. I guess my point is when people are scared about losing their jobs, you got to remember at one point in time, there were entire floors of people doing pen and paper math for banks. The calculator eliminated the entire industry of those people. The sewing machine transformed how we wear clothes. So all of this technology stuff is going to remove some jobs. Let's not kitty code around that. It is just going to happen. The trick is, how are you evolving with the service and with the product? Because it's going to open up so many more doors for things that require high functioning tasks, not just low functioning stuff.
Here's an amazing example to validate what you just said. So when I was like 22 years old, I was a buyer for a large sporting goods chain. And this was like literally, this was like 1991 or whatever. And Microsoft Excel was brand new, right? Like it was just coming to play. So I was budgeting and purchasing for a bunch of stores using a piece of paper that we took a ruler and a pencil and drew lines like a spreadsheet. And it was pencil eraser calculator. We were doing spreadsheets with pencil eraser calculator. That's how we were doing budgets, buying, figuring out how many by store. So you needed a crap load of buyers. Like one buyer could only do like one little category. And then they introduced Microsoft Excel, and our buying department shrunk because now less buyers could buy more categories because Excel saved you hours and hours and hours and hours. And that changed the world. So to both your points about losing jobs, it's just like the receptionist got lost there, but they hired a mechanic because there's more work. So it builds wealth, right? To Laurent's point. So yeah, I just think this is not the first time this is happening for sure. Excel did this, and people don't realize how powerful that was back then.
But I think people need to really pay attention to that too, right? Like every time you got a technology revolution, like what you're talking about, there's always people that get left behind. I still say there's someone out there who is absolutely pissed off that videos went to MP4s and not to DVDs because they repaired DVD players most of their life and they don't have jobs anymore. Like it will transition. What you're talking about though is I can eliminate a lot of human error in a voice over AI that does the booking and does all that stuff for me too, because I also don't have to worry about, and we discussed this earlier, that person getting tired, that person having a bad day and mouthing off my customer, that person doing all kinds of stuff. AI can make up for a lot of shortfalls, but it also means humans have to come up with a better way of interacting with each other, which brought me to another thing. My daughter's youth group, they're like 12 to 18-year-olds. You can't play them AI videos. The moment they see it's an AI video, they tune out. They're like, I'm not interested. It might even be good quality and good content, but they're like, nope, it's AI. I'm not interested. I don't want to deal with it. It's slop. Like they just have this rebellion against feeling like they're being deceived, lied to, or that there's something fake in front of them. So that you have to learn to play both sides of that. And when we had our first conversation, you talked about this. You talked about how, yes, AI can clone your voice, but don't lie to people, right? You made that comment saying, let them know what they're dealing with. Don't try to pretend like it's something it's not. So how do you handle the trust side of the whole voice AI thing where people won't just tune it out? Like, okay, so people still don't trust self-driving cars as an example because of the old school Windows blue screen of death. People still think my car's just going to shut off on me while I'm driving down the road and kill everybody, so I don't trust that. So we have this resistance to technology for when it goes wrong, as well as now I got a resistance to technology because now I'm used to the chat bots that I get on Facebook when chat stuff first came out, and I'd ask it a question and it would give me an answer and I say something like banana and I completely short circuit the entire thing because it doesn't have the pre-programmed responses. So how's your company, and for what you're seeing in AI, handling, number one, people who are resistant to talking to a robot at all? And two, the trust factor of people don't want to be deceived about the fact that they feel like they're talking to a human but aren't.
This is an amazing point, Dennis. And this is exactly what we talk about morning, day, and night with my partner. The reason is very simple. When you launch a product such as Voice AI, and that you know that 10 years from now, 9.9% of all the companies in the world will use Voice AI, because that is obvious, you ask yourself, what brings people from not trusting today when 10 years from now, they will not be able to live without it. And again, this is a trust factor. So
that's
let
a
me
good
answer
point,
that.
boy. Yeah, keep going.
So let me tell you exactly what I think. For example, and you mentioned your little daughter that doesn't watch AI video. We, on our social media, create video using AI, have on those video watermarks. We decided not to delete those watermarks. We leave those watermarks. The reason is, why trying to lie to people when we know that they know that we're using Voice AI? Because you have to understand that is, when we do a Voice AI video on social media, Voice AI may be the media, but the content is ourselves. What the video says and convey is what we want to say, not what the AI wants to say. And that's a huge difference.
So you bring up a really good point, because from a observer's point of view, watching a video or listening to Voice AI, if they start questioning, is this AI or a real person, then their focus is on that. and it's not on the content and the message. So what you're saying, I think, is let's take the observer's focus off of the question, is this AI or not AI? Which means they miss the whole point, which is the message of the content of the message. So you're saying let's remove that so they actually listen to the message and understand and hopefully engage on that message, whatever it is. So that's brilliant. I think that's a great message for everybody.
Be honest up front.
Yeah.
I'm a fervent supporter in general of disclosing you're using voice AI. I would absolutely have no issue that every single piece of text or prompt or video or audio has a disclosure. I'm perfectly fine with that, And by the way, it is a funny thing, but I'm so used working with LLM and agents that I know and I notice the ChatGPT crumbles watermarks, that flavors that you see everywhere. And I was reading some French politician ex post the other day, and it was like a big thread sounding very smart and very intense. And I couldn't help myself but noticing those big dashes and spaces and little hyphen. Come on, guy, you're trying to have my attention on what you're saying. Whereas I know that I'm reading ChatGPT. No, it doesn't work for me,
Exactly.
Now, I know that what I know, 90% of the population yet doesn't notice it. But at the end of the day, we will know, And it's funny because as the AI is evolving and it's getting much harder to disseminate what's AI and what's not, I think that we will need that disclosure. Now, going back to GetOblic and the trust factor again, I told you that we have today the technology to clone voices, and we do not want to clone those voices because that's a trust breach for us. If someone call your business, knows your voice, engage with the voice AI, thinking he engages with you, and that after 3 minutes, because eventually he notices something is wrong, what happens? Are you breaking the trust? Yes, you are. We'd rather have a good quality voice with guardrails, fallback, data that is AI that, okay, you know what there's a saying, don't look at the stars, look at the instruments, like a pilot. We don't want people to look at the stars and how fancy the voice is and how cloning is good, Focus on the real purpose of the discussion, which is providing you the best service possible in the best time frame.
Yeah, I got a guy that I'm on his email list, and I find it very, very interesting. He's the only one that does this, and I know others use AI, but he goes, "Hey, my AI thingy noticed you didn't click on the link the last time, so I got my AI to send you this." Like, he's very upfront about it, and then it goes, okay, so I actually read his stuff. But there is coming to a point now, and I think the younger generation's seeing it, where I don't know how far technology is going to go, but I think it's going to be really hard to get rid of that non-human feeling to things. There's just a way humans do things and interact with things that you feel it. Like, I'll start reading a Facebook post, within 2 paragraphs, I'm like, I don't want to read the other 18 paragraphs because I know AI wrote this thing. Like, people are starting to feel it, even if they're not heavily involved in it. So what you're saying is trust comes from being honest. Hey, you've reached Dennis's AI receptionist. Let me walk you through some stuff. It's a lot nicer than saying, hey, Dennis, can I mimic your voice and try to be you? And by the way, I got to throw in the random swear word and talk fast at different moments and it's better to be honest up front and say it's not him.
I think you need to run out and register the official name for your assistant is AI Thingy.
AI Thingy. Yeah.
I love that.
My AI Thingy. Frank Kern, brilliant guy. Love the way he does things.
And by the way,
AI Thingy.
You see a lot of voice AI company that do video on social media, and they're really insisting on what I call the stars, they're testing the voice AI, and the voice AI mimics human reaction, like humming, like coughing, because it sounds more realistic. But at the end of the day, does the content fit what you need? I don't think so.
Yeah, lying is lying. People don't like it.
So I love this. In summary, in grade 6 language, you're just saying AI, whether it's voice assistant or whatever else somebody's using, needs to enhance our performance, not replace human interaction. Like, that's not meant to be the purpose. And people need human interaction. We need it. Like, I hear about these people that get AI girlfriends and stuff. Are you like, really?
That's another podcast, I guess.
Yeah, right. On a different channel.
But
okay.
To be honest, I can easily imagine that people will interact, whether with video or voice, with a voice that's appealing, and whatever happens in their mind, to be honest, and I'm not going to talk about the subject for hours, but you already have people talking to real humans that do not have feeling with them. They're just being paid to say some stuff.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
guess an AI can do the same thing, you know?
Yeah,
Well,
you're
and
right. Yeah.
and even on the LLM side, the vast majority of my interaction with AI lately has been on like Grok or X's AI Grok, but I use the voice side of things way more than I use the typing side of things. But I know I'm interacting with a robot, right? So it's like if I was interacting with the AI and suddenly I'm talking to some person who's pretending to be an AI, I'd be very offended and upset because there's a disconnect between the truth. I know I'm interacting with a robot. Let me interact with the robot. It's fine. Now, how people want to interact with that robot, that's a different podcast. In your situation, it's taking a role that allows them to fill in the gaps and allows them to streamline things. And I've had conversations with clients already in this last couple of weeks where they're like, I would love to know if I could get AI to actually fill my calendar, book my calls, do this kind of stuff because I forget about things or I've missed, or I've had clients who didn't submit a $5,000 invoice 6 months ago because they
Right.
just lost track of things and they got lost in the emails and now they're trying to recover cash. And I can see where what you're talking about, a system that eliminates that human error, is hugely
Yeah.
beneficial. And one of the things I talk to people about all the time is the human mind isn't designed to remember, it's designed to forget. So when you've got people working for you and they're trying to focus on high function things all day long, they're going to miss the lowbrow stuff. Your system takes care of a lot of that lowbrow stuff so they can keep focusing on the high function stuff.
Okay, many things here.
Yeah.
So yeah. Voice AI is a wonderful assistant. It's a sidekick. It understands you. And what's crazy is that as far as you work with LLMs and agents, they start knowing you. You know, they know when you're upset, even when you're texting. I mean, even more now that we have voice. And when we are talking about voice, beyond what voice AI does over the phone, you have to understand that the voice channel as an interaction is coming back with a full force. You are already using ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok, okay? Now, Elon is going to produce millions of robots. How do you think you're going to interact with them? You're not going to tap on the screen. You're going to interact with your voice, you know? So you better get
Right.
use of interacting with robots using your voice. And
Great point.
it's always, I tell that story always because, you know, the pendulum effect in history. When I was a kid, mother told me, stop watching TV. You don't read books anymore, you know? And then the internet came, you know, and all of a sudden you start reading again. You only read, by the way.
Right.
You don't talk anymore. Oh, you're on your screen every
Right.
day. Oh, you're on the internet. Do something else. Go play outside. You know, Mom, I thought you wanted me to read or whatever. And then
Or
it
get
goes
off
back.
the phone and go get off the
Exactly.
watch something. And
then,
now you're going to have
boom.
to learn to talk to robots. So you got to get back on the phone.
Exactly. Then YouTube
Totally.
comes, no, and then suddenly again we're watching videos again. Now it's not TV, but it's videos. Okay,
Right.
now it's voice again. That's the way it is until it's no more voice, no more screen. It's just thing in our head, you know, and we'll interact like that.
Yeah.
That's probably what some people are imagining. But voice is
yeah.
coming back with a vengeance.
No, I
Love
think it's a good thing too, because I went to a play last night from a bunch of high schoolers and I'm like, man, when did they stop learning how to articulate words? Because people just aren't talking as much anymore. They were typing and doing other things. And so voice has always been a very strong human trait. And that's what I like about what
So
you're
is
doing.
the play with acronyms?
No. It was using proper language, but they've lost the
Like
function of the
LOL or-
full mouth muscles because they just don't. They do other things. And so you're watching that pendulum
Right.
swing. I guess my question comes back down to is we've talked a lot about what you do. My question is like, how'd you get into it? Like what led you down this path to even want to get into voice LLMs and go that way as far as a career goes?
Two things. First of all, the amazing evolution that everybody and myself noticed about AI. I'm a geek, so I saw that technology, the realm of technologies. And I say, I cannot do anything now that is not AI involved and centered, you know, which by the way, as much as I'm working with AI, I understand now that it's not AI only. You know, it goes beyond AI, but that's something else. Second thing is very simple. 2 years ago, I had a phone call and it took me 3 questions and 3 minutes to understand that I was talking with a robot. So, you know, it humbles you. You think you've seen it all and you answer your phone and you don't recognize voice AI. So it told me there's something to it. So those are the two things. Then you sit down, you start imagining what you do. And the first thing you say, okay, if I do voice AI, what will I not do? So what will I not do is being a SaaS company. I have to find what it's called the infinite game, something that is scalable, something that has absolutely no limits. And when you have that vision, and I try to have it on every single business I do, you start to see things a bit differently. So then comes the directory, you know, there's many businesses. Okay, we're going to build a directory. They want voice AI. How do we build trust? All the things we discussed earlier. And you go step by step. It's always a work in progress, and every single assumption that we had at the beginning now are in the trash. Always something else. You question yourself. And again, if as a business owner, you do not question yourself anytime, you're not a business owner and you will fail. So be humble. Don't think also, do not focus on the product itself, the solution itself, because you will never create something. You can create a product for 10 years, but at the end of the day, if you don't switch your focus from product to customers, you don't have a business. So very quickly also we move to the customer-centric vision.
You saw the opportunity from being exposed to the opportunity, right? That's what I hear you kind of saying. If you're talking with an AI voice, like, hey, wait a minute, this is going to come through for everything. I might as well get on that bandwagon. And it's not one of these things where it's like you're buying a phone book printing company and hoping to expand it. You completely went, no. I'm not going to waste my time on something that's disappearing. I'm going to spend some time on something that has a chance to evolve. So that's really cool.
This is exactly it. And add something that we said earlier, Dennis. What I understood very early on about AI is all the agentic businesses. Building an agent, thinking that ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or anyone else for that matter on the big seven will not replace. I knew that from day one. Why are you building an agentic layer when you know that ChatGPT will come out with one functionality and will delete your business in a minute? So use their solution and build the layer which deliver the solution to business owners and customers. That's what you need to do.
On a completely different side note, listening to what you're talking about, I was in Vegas this last November and the Circus Hotel's up for sale, right? And all the land and stuff that's associated. And I was talking to my wife about this and she's like, yeah, somebody should go build something there. I'm like, how? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's going to take you 5 to 10 years to turn that land into a proper casino. How do you predict 5 to 10 years from now what's going to draw somebody into that casino in 10 years with the way technology is so rapidly evolving? Because whatever you try to build today, when your plans for today is going to be irrelevant in 10 years, and you're going to have this thing that's never going to produce an ROI because the technology is evolving at a rate that we can't comprehend. Voice, I see exactly what you're talking about. It's when you get into robots, voice will be the interaction. When you're getting into talking about call centers, voice will be the interaction. Everything you're talking about, it has to naturally evolve that way because there's nothing else to replace it at this point that could go around that and do a better job than simple voice. Plus, I'm going to assume too that with voice, you don't have to worry about people who speak multiple languages because voice should be able to interpret and speak to them in their own language on the one that they call in.
That's exactly part of the leveling playing game, right? Remember when I told you that large businesses, they have call centers, they have multiple language handling. Now, voice AI and our voice AI in particular has that. You can, within one discussion, switch to 3 languages back and forth. You can ask if it typed Vietnamese, come back to German, and then switch back to English. Very smoothly, each one have its own voice because each voice is adapted to the language. Those are leveling the field. And believe me,
your
Dennis,
current service does that?
Of course. Of course.
Nice.
As now we have 9 languages. So we have German, Italian, Portuguese. And you know what the crazy thing? Greg, you wouldn't imagine how many American businesses are happy with that. And I'm talking local and small businesses. I was talking with Bartak's clinic out of Boston the other day. I think he said 50% of its customer base speaks Portuguese in Boston.
Wow.
And he's not Portuguese, by the way. Those things where local and small business would not have dreamt of 2 years ago. How do you handle? No, I cannot pay for a call center. No, I cannot have someone working for me that speaks multiple language. That's out of my realm. Now it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can totally see why you would be attracted to this industry. But I think it's also really cool that you came into it the same way most people get into businesses. You tripped over something and went, hey, wait a minute. There's an opportunity here that most people aren't capitalizing on. Because that's one of the things I came across in my studies of AI too, is how many AI companies are rapidly failing. They start off to try to do something, but then like you talked about, the big ones come in and they simply do it better, or they've done more marketing, or there's more user base, and these ones that are coming up just disappear, where you're not ever talking about competition. You're talking about use that and leverage it in a slightly different direction, which is brilliant.
I'm a big believer in serendipity. That has been what has made me a man for the past 54 years. So the serendipity on receiving a phone call, yes. And also you go through highs and lows as a business owner. And I can tell you that much is that the worst thing that happened to me in business have ended up being the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
So I could go into many stories about that, but this is really, really something that only with age and maturity, you understand. You don't understand that when you're young. You can hear it, but you don't understand it.
Don't understand
I
it.
want to validate what you just said. I absolutely would argue for sure with anybody about this. You will not find a high performing business. So define high performing how you want, but at the end of the day, that's super profitable, like not from a dollar point of view, but from a profit as a percentage of revenue point of view, right? Or even a large corporation that's profitable. You will not find one where either someone on the ownership team or executive team hasn't been through a really tough bottom crash time. Like you can't become a super high performer without making really tough decisions and doing uncomfortable things. And that comes from realize, like when you hit bottom or you hit a crash, that's what fuels that and makes you realize that's what you got to do. So yeah, just to validate what you just said, that is 100% true. You have to experience a difficult thing to become a high performer. You have to.
On that subject, I'll tell you two things, Greg. First is that I used to say that I was blessed enough not to have my big hard moments later during my business. But in fact, I wasn't blessed. I wished I had it a lot earlier, just,
Yeah.
to get a lesson. I had my lesson. I had a few, but I had one big lesson. And the other thing is very interesting regarding that is that few years ago, and for many years during the digital era and before AI, every single kid out of school with just some coding skill, could go to a VC, raise $10 million and become successful. And elder people, they were discarded from the workplace unless you work hard on your own business. They weren't even looked at. Now the playing field has changed for us, not them, us also. Older people.
No,
we
I'm
are
still
back.
one of the young ones. I'm still one of the young ones. It's you two that's the old one. But keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So them, not us. But what I would say about that subject is that today with LLM and agents, the number one quality that you need is problem solving.
Yeah,
Now, who
bingo.
are the best problem solvers? People with experience, not the young guns coming out of college. So if you still have the energy and the health, obviously, to work and get into AI, you can do anything at any scale with very few resources. The only thing that requests for you is energy, time, and will. And if you get that plus the experience, you're onto something great.
Sorry, I want to, what you just said, agree totally. I want to change one word. Will should change to commitment. And I'm going to share a really great example. And if you don't like my example, let us know and we'll cut it out of the podcast. But we're doing a podcast right now and you're sitting in Tel Aviv and your phone alert's gone off. Actual sirens outside have gone off to say, hey, danger. And you're committed to do whatever. I mean, you're not risking, you obviously, if you're risking your life or your well-being, you would leave for sure. But you don't have will, you have commitment. And that's, I think anybody listening to this, like Dennis and I say this all the time to clients or to business owners, don't be motivated. Motivation goes up and down with results. Be committed. And that's totally different. And I got to commend you and say, like, you're an awesome example right now as we speak of being committed to what you're trying to achieve. Because like I said, Dennis and I heard it. There's war alarms going off in your background, and like 99.9999999% of people would have not shown up for the podcast, would have, whatever. So I commend you, and I'm just validating what you just said.
Thank you, Greg. And let me tell you one thing. Now, people know by now with my accent that I was born in France. I've been moving to America in 2002, and this is my country. This is where my children were born. I have an office in Tel Aviv. That's where I'm stuck today. And overall, this life that I've lived is my wealth. This is not my money. This is what I've lived. And it taught me three things. The first one, being raised in France and in Europe in general, is that you learn about craftsmanship. You learn how to be precise, how to deep dive into things. The second thing was living in America. It taught me efficiency. You have to do what you have to do, but you have to get the job done. That's something that's American. And that's how American got so successful.
Absolutely.
Anyway, now working with Israel, I taught me a third thing, a sense of urgency. You don't have time. Do it now because you don't know what tomorrow is going to be. You don't have that problem in France. We've been there for a very long time. You take your time, craft your thing, But now in Israel, there's an urgency. Do it now. And in America, it says, be efficient, man. Do what you have to do. That's the middle ground. When you have the three things, it builds you as a man in a way that's, again, is my wealth. And just to finish that, Greg, you are totally right. Will is not important. Emotion not important. Commitment is the number one thing.
Your willingness to push through.
Yeah. You had mentioned we should ask you about your Volcano story.
Yes, I love that
Yes,
story.
I forgot about that. Right.
Okay, I'm going to do it as short as I can.
Okay.
This is the story of a boxing match, 12-round boxing match. I was into e-commerce starting in 2002 when I arrived in the US. And I was basically selling American products abroad, some beauty products. And it got very big, very fast. I was very happy. 2008, I buy a company doing the same thing for fragrances. 2009, a company that did the same thing for toys. Now, I was doing great and I was about to break the glass ceiling. Literally, 2010, I'm ready. Christmas is coming, full of opportunities, big season.
Right.
Warehouse is packed. People are hired, working 7 days a week. We're ready. Orders start coming in by October, when the Christmas season starts on e-commerce. Everything is perfect. I'm already, remember what you said, Greg, earlier about growth for small businesses? I'm thinking next year is going to be even better. I'm going to be huge. December 10, I open the TV and I see that there's a volcano in Iceland that has erupted. I don't know if you remember that story, but there was a huge ash cloud all over Europe, which in turn made all the aerial plane traffic stopped all over Europe. Not a single airplane could fly in or out of Europe. So what happens? I've got thousands of packages, which are, by the way, Christmas gifts up in Jamaica, New York, and receiving thousands of emails. And by that time, we didn't have AI from customers saying,
Where's
my package is not here yet. It's Christmas. My kids, my wife, my whatever, And again, I'm an honest company, I'm not a scammer.
I want to return it. I want a refund.
And second thing, the news say the ash might disappear tomorrow, in 2 days, 3 days. Do not worry. Expect that it would happen very shortly, but it did not. It took 3 weeks, and I was keeping shipping. I was shipping over 1,200 packages a day. It was crazy, crazy. So what was I doing at that time? I was literally spending my days replying to customers, thousands of emails, reassuring them, saying, "Do not worry, it will arrive. We're sorry. We're going to give you a discount. We're going to make it up to you."
And the whole time you're saying, I wish somebody would come up with a voice AI.
No, at that point, this is the 8th round. I'm sweating. Yeah. I'm sweating. And I'm telling myself, this is a force of nature, act of God, name it, That's what happens, It lasts for 2.5 weeks, I think. Package start arriving. Some are late, some are not. And I contain my main risk with chargeback for the merchant services online to 1.4%, which is great compared to the volume of issue we had. But Bank of America doesn't like 1.4%. It doesn't like 1.1%, And I come in the morning, that's for round 9, and I receive an email from Bank of America saying they cancel my merchant services. So I'm from my best year in my life, breaking the glass ceiling, envisioning myself getting bigger next year, to getting 3 years step back with no merchant service and having to find what those gray zone merchant service sharks, charge you 12% fees plus 5% retainer. Almost all my profit goes down the pipe just to get back on track. Now, from that story, it took me 3 years to recover. And that 9th round was literally getting it knocked out, count to 8. I was down. My vision was blurred. I didn't know what I was doing. And that's where it gets interesting, the recovery. First of all, the first step is understanding what happened. Is it an act of God? Yes. Is it force of nature? Yes. But is it the real problem? No. I cannot accept that the real problem. The real problem has to be myself. I've done something wrong. Because if I decide to think that it's not related to me, then you put the gloves and you get out of the ring. It's over. No, that's me. Yep. What did I do wrong? I know what I did wrong. I got into a comfortable place where that business selling abroad was pretty good for me. I didn't focus on selling locally, which would have been a way not to put my eggs in the same nest, but it requires more energy. Now, don't get me wrong. I was working, but I was not working the way an entrepreneur would be. I was making money. It was fine by me. I didn't focus on social media. I was on Google. I missed something. But at that time, I didn't know it. So that was a lesson. That was my lesson, Greg, that I mentioned earlier. And from that standpoint, I decided, okay, now I'm going to rebuild my company a different way. I'm going to sell locally. I'm going to create brands that I'm going to sell locally. I did it. It took me 3 years. And believe me, Dennis, believe me, Greg, it was the best thing that happened to me. 5 years after that story, my business was as big as it has ever been. I was selling abroad
Nice.
and locally. I was successful on social media. And I learned a hard lesson, don't sleep. It's not because you wake up at 8 and you go back to your family at 7 that you're working. That's not what an entrepreneur is. Just think, evaluate the risk constantly. And why do I say this? Because it's not like I didn't know that I had risk. If it's not a volcano, it's something, There's always something. I knew, but I intentionally put it on the side because it would have put me out of my comfort zone. It's very hard now to tell someone to apply this to its own story. But I'm 100% sure that a lot of businesses get into at some point that comfort zone because that's a human. You've worked hard to build something. You put a lot of energy. And when you get the fruits out of that, what do? Well, you go more to the restaurant. You have a better life and it takes you away. And it's probably what differentiates from a regular business owner to Elon Musk or Bezos or those guys are grinding. There's never a day when they don't think what is the next step. And that experience has made me a better man, a better business owner, and I changed my life tremendously. Of course, anyone would have told me this in 2010 when I was counting to 8. I don't know how I would have reacted.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that after years and experience, you understand that you need your lesson. And also, by the way, the other lesson you get is that I took it very personally at that time. When I say personally, mentally and physically. Now it doesn't happen to me anymore. You bring it to me. You heard the bomb, right? Before. Don't take it personally anymore. So this
I
is
can
what
really relate.
maturity.
Your story is absolutely spot on. I've done a deep dive recently on the business failure rate in the world, and literally 15 years ago it was a little over 80% failure rate. Now we're looking at 95%. So it's going the wrong direction, right? That's not a good thing. And I think, so the reality is 95% of business owners out there are just going, oh, it's okay. Maybe next month will be better. Maybe next year will be better. Maybe they're too complacent, too accepting of the current situation and not willing to make that hard decision because they haven't gone through that crash, that hard lesson, right? So, that's the bottom line is this. Anybody listen to this? If your net profit percent, so meaning when you look at your P&L, look at whatever you're paying yourself as a wage, adjust that wage to fair market. Whatever adjustment you make, adjust your profit by the same amounts. Example, people will say, small business owners will say, well, I don't pay myself a wage because my accountant says take dividends. Okay, great. But let's say the wage should be fair market, 100 grand. Then go to the bottom. If you put 100 grand as your wage, go to the bottom and reduce your profit by 100 grand. And I guarantee you, 95% of businesses, that new adjusted profit is 0 or less. So the point is, to back up your story, that means 95% of businesses right now, they're just not aware. They're hanging by a thread or one volcano blow away. They're just not aware. And it can happen like that. Our big driver is you got to get your profit to 15% or more. There are certain industries where that's not possible. We understand that, but very few. But if you don't get 15 plus, then if your profits, like the average business is losing money, the ones that are making money, they're between 4 and 7% profit. They're one volcano in Iceland away from being
one
that
car
situation.
accident away. They're not even a volcano.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Laurent, full transparency, I experienced almost the same story, different whatevers, but 2007 when the US housing economy crashed, it affected our business in Canada. And I went through the same thing you went through. And excuse my language here, but it's fucking hell on wheels. And mentally, physically, emotionally, it's a shit. And then what is it? Do you blame what? Do you blame that? But honestly, our business was less than 7% profit at the time. One economy change, boom, killed us. It just happens like that. So again, you said to yourself, how do I change? You got to make your business as problem proof as possible. And you got to fight. And you got to be willing to just pivot and adapt and fight and be proactive and make tough decisions. That's the hardest part.
Many things I want to say here, Greg. First of all, you got hurt by 2008. I was blooming in 2008. Why? Because
Right.
most of my business was out of the US. And this
There
is
you
why
go.
I put my guard down. This is why I had a volcano
Yeah.
story. You know why now?
Yeah.
If you go through 2008, being in the US where you see the world crumbling down around you and your
Yeah.
business is blooming, what do you think? I'm invulnerable, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not. Whether you're a
Exactly.
believer or you're not, you think someone gives you a lesson. I got my lesson and it was deserved. Now, as a business owner, anybody that thinks this is a sprint is wrong. It's a marathon. And when I told you, because I sum up that volcano story in 5 minutes, but when you put that in perspective of the 3 years it took me to recover, I didn't
Yeah.
come with a solution in a minute. It's not like I had a
Yeah.
problem and next morning, I have the solution in back on track. No, you have
Yeah.
a solution and it's not the good one, and another solution. And then you start learning and applying what you need to solve. And remember, you have to solve also the volcano problems,
Yeah.
and you have to do among them. And it lasts 3 years. 3 years is a very long time. It's tough on the people. So it's easy to make it a short story, but living the story is something totally different.
It's awful.
So I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I guess for the listener, take heed to these stories. It can happen to anybody and you're not problem proof. It's not it can happen
Yeah.
fast. You got to be prepared.
I would add two things also. First of all, as a business owner, and I'm talking to every business owner out there or future business owners, if you think you're entering business owning for freedom, you are wrong. The word freedom is not what matches business owning. It's a way you can be free to do what you want, maybe.
It's a
But
purpose.
every single business owner work for someone else. You work for the bank. Remember my story. You work for Amazon. You work for Facebook, Meta. You work for, you name it. You work for
Customer,
someone. You don't, yeah, of course. And your customers, obviously. But that's kind of
staff.
different, because working for your customer is the goal of the company. When you create a company and you rely on advertising on Google, the goal of the company is not working for Google. You see the difference, right? But
Yeah.
you work for Google, So that's a problem. Second thing. Yeah.
I think, sorry, before you go on, I think what Dennis and I would probably say to that is you need to define freedom everybody's definition of freedom is different, but the business owner's realistic definition of freedom is very different than someone who just doesn't know any better and thinks they become a business owner and like they don't have to work. And like that definition of freedom doesn't exist in business for sure. Yeah.
Not even in network marketing.
No. And the other thing I would tell everyone listening, be careful who you're talking to.
Okay, that's a 5-hour podcast right there.
Yeah, that's a 5-hour podcast, but there's one thing I can tell you, when you're a business owner and you're talking with, for instance, and that's an experience I had recently, C-level people, they have absolutely no clue what you are going through. They haven't created anything in their life. And that's not judgment here, by the way. There's great C-level people. I cannot do their job, but they cannot do mine for sure. And not only they cannot do my job, but they do not understand it. And let me tell you, I've heard, and I got really upset the other day talking with a C-level guy from a large French company. This guy from out of school has been climbing, the scale of a company. Now he's pretty high in a big company. And basically his work is driving through company politics. He doesn't build, he doesn't create, he doesn't work with his fingers, he just who I'm talking to at one point in time to make sure that I'm going to trade my job to another job, And again, that's perfectly fair. I'm not judging, but that's what he is. And the discussion got pretty harsh because he started saying, we were at the dinner, and he said, we're talking about COVID for that matter. And he said, a lot of the company that got wiped out because of COVID kind of deserved it because they were not so good before. And basically what COVID did is a good thing. It cleaned up all the companies that were, on the verge of something bad. And I got really mad. I said, you're talking about people here. Being on the verge is not being on the verge of dying, trying every day. Remember what I told you earlier? You're not on a growth mode. You're in a critical mode every day when you're a business owner, a small business owner. It's not because you don't make billions and you don't have time to talk at the water fountain that you're not building something. Those guys in those big companies, they only work by what's happening on the NASDAQ. Where's my stock this morning? Why is it down? They don't control it. They don't control shit about it. They just drive the wave. Us business owner, every single morning, we think about what's going to happen today, what's going to happen next week, next month, next year, and we fight for it. Now there's a COVID and we get wiped out. And those guys tell you deserve it. Oh, I don't like that. And I've heard it. So be careful who you're talking to again.
Well, it's
I can't comment on that because my comments get physically violent.
Well, or banned. But it's the equivalent of the guy who plays, or doesn't even play hockey, but goes to every hockey game and thinks he knows how the center should perform, right? Like, you should have shot the puck from that spot, not that spot.
The armchair quarterback,
yeah. Like, the guys that are on the outside of it who've never actually, it's trying to tell everybody what it's like to fight Mike Tyson, but you've never actually been punched in the face. Like, you don't have a clue until you've been decked a couple of times whether or not you want to be in the ring to fight. And like, I've often told clients, if there's the worst thing that's ever going to happen to you in the business is the best thing that's ever going to happen to you in the business, because you never would have sought the solutions. You never would have sought the whatever until you had that moment of that absolute worst thing. You never would have adjusted your course. And there's a lot of people that want entrepreneurship to be this straight line to whatever they think of themselves as success. And I think you've probably found this too in your journey. When you're in a position where you can buy what you want, eat what you want, go where you want, there's something that becomes incredibly boring about that life. It's like, what am I even here for anymore if it's just to eat, sleep, and drive? I need that thing that's going to make me go, what's that next level? How far can I push? How hard can I go? And it's such a rare group of people that want to actually look at the volcano and go, no, there's an opportunity in this thing, not a problem in this thing. And very few people take the opportunity to actually look at that. But I like your other point, which is a 3-minute story doesn't tell you the 3 years of emotional anxiety and stress and frustration and vomiting and fear that goes into it of trying to figure it out, but you do. And somebody who's a C-suite who worked his way up somewhere has no idea what it's like to get in the boxing with Mike Tyson because he's never been in the juniors. He has no idea how to fight that fight. And then when they tell you deserve to lose, there's something massively offensive about that.
A naive comment that guy made. If you go, anyway, I could go on forever about this subject, but if you go search public company results, so the big corporations he's talking about, the vast majority make less than 7% EBT, like net profit, which means they're not healthy. Like, a company could say we make $400 million a year, but if that's 4.3% of revenue, that executive team should be fired. If I'm a shareholder, that's horrible performance. So for that guy to say that the small businesses that shut down during COVID deserved it. Bottom line, they didn't get the same support through COVID the big guys got. The only reason many of those big guys survived is they got the freaking support and were allowed to open, got bailouts, it's a bullshit comment. It's so naive for him to say that. It just tells you what he doesn't know. It doesn't understand, really doesn't understand at all.
Greg, not only is naive and disgusting, but it's redundant in that it's not the first time I heard it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a common
these people are saying this. Yeah, they say this. And the other thing is that a large company have this wonderful tool called offering. Everything goes down, well, you do an offering. Now, let's get some more money. Entrepreneurs, small businesses, we do not have that. You can just pray to go see your bank and see if it helps you, and usually it doesn't help you because it only gives you money when you have money. So that's a different game.
And they get bailed out by government to go, no, don't pay us back.
I can guarantee you the fund-backed businesses gained a lot of market share between 2020 and 2023.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I agree.
Right.
Okay. So
let's book another podcast. We'll rant about big companies.
So our producer likes to ask us a couple of personal questions at the end just to get to know us at the end of the podcast for the audience. So I'll ask one question at a time. And I'm just going on the order in my screen. So Laurent, I'll start with you. So the first question is, when you were little or young, what was your most favorite activity, hobby, or game?
I was playing with little soldiers. I was creating worlds. And actually, it's funny because I was living in France, but I was playing with cowboys and Indians. So I had my little Indians down the bed and I had cowboys on top,
Awesome. That's really cool.
Are we even allowed to say that anymore?
Whatever.
Who cares what we're allowed? We're saying it
That's
anyway.
Cool. I think that's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah. Dennis, how about you?
My favorite activity growing up on the farm was just dirt biking. I think I got my first dirt bike when I was 8. And I think I did that until my 20s. It was one of my favorite activities.
Nice. I'm going to say mine is just backyard sports, like whatever sport, like playing just, I spent as a kid, like 7 through 10 years old. We lived in Germany on the Air Force Base. So there was no English TV. So literally every night, every weekend, all the kids in the neighborhood, boom, we meet in a park, a cul-de-sac, play a sport, whatever it was. And then I moved back to Canada. And like, I'm like, it's grade 6. I'm like, okay, let's go play something. And all the kids are like, no, I'm going to go home, watch like this TV program. I'm like, what? What a culture shock that was. Okay. Second question. What is your most favorite leisure or like activity, hobby, leisure now? Laurent, you can go first.
I'm a sport guy. I've been doing sports very often all my life. Unfortunately, for the past 6 months, I have completely stopped, which is bad, right? So as now, I listen to music all the time. This
Cool.
is my world. I listen to all kind of music. This is what I love.
Cool. That's nice. Dennis.
I think the two activities you'll find me most commonly engaging in is a mindless video game with a podcast. I'm a highly kinesthetic learner, so I'll have a podcast playing while I'm listening to something and playing a video game that just occupies my hands and my mind, and it allows me to just go through hours of content. So you almost always find me with my headphones on at the gym. It's a podcast, never radios. It's just always information.
So funny. So both of your answers are kind of more about unplugging the mind because you use your mind all day long, right?
No, mine's
So
plugging my mind in. I never shut it off. It's not like it's not music. It's like it's politics, it's business, it's whatever. I'm always listening to something.
I'm going to say mine's playing with our dogs or walking our dogs. I think that's probably what it is right now. Although, like Laurent, like you, I love sports. I love golf. I love hiking. I love all that outdoor stuff. I wish I was doing that, but the last probably year or two, I haven't had time for that. So it's been grinding. So it's, spending time with our dogs, which is cool. Awesome. Thank you, Laurent. Appreciate it. Laurent, thank you very much. I think this is a very interesting podcast for a few reasons. One, it hopefully brings some clarity to this intimidating subject of AI and how it can help and lower some anxiety of, not losing your job and stuff. It's pretty cool. And also it's great to hear from a business owner, like the second part of the podcast where we talked about just your journey, what you've been through. These are lessons people need to hear and learn and be aware of and realize they're not problem proof, right? So that's really cool. And I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the discussion was wonderful. I could have gone for hours again.
Yeah.
I hope someday we'll meet for real and have a nice dinner and continue the discussion. So thank you so
That'd be
much,
great.
Jax. Thank you
It's
so
not
much.
in Tel
Dennis.
Aviv.
Why not? You never know.
Yeah,
You never know.
At some point. Yeah.
Because those sirens terrify me.
Thanks for listening to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform and leave a comment or review if you're feeling generous. To learn more about us and what we do, check out our website. Until next time, take care.